Craft breweries seem to be popping up everywhere, not just here in DFW, but kind of all over the country. So when I found out that a buddy of mine was a part of opening Westlake Brewing in Deep Ellum, I thought, you know what, let me come down, talk to him about this craft brewery craze, what makes a good craft brewery, what makes a good craft beer. So that's what I'm doing today. All right, guys, this is Art Harvey. He is the founder of Westlake Brewing here in Deep Ellum. And my first question is, why did you open this place?
Good question. So I grew up in a household where something was always bubbling. My parents made wine and mead and beer. And when I went off to college, my brother and I started brewing. So this has been a long-term passion for about 25 years.
What do you think about all the craft breweries that seem to be popping up all over the place? It seems like they're just all of a sudden there's a ton of them everywhere.
You know, it's funny. It feels like there's breweries popping up everywhere, and it feels like it's on a serious uptrend, right? But we actually have about the same number of craft breweries as we had in the US 100 years ago. So really, pre-prohibition, we had about the same number of breweries as we have today.
Okay, so I have a confession. I have basically zero idea how beer is actually made, how it's brewed. So can you kind of walk me through that process?
Yeah, absolutely. The first step is we start with malted barley. It's basically the seed of a grass, and it's malted by soaking in water and then drying out and then roasting it. We take that grain and we crack it and we put it in a mash tun. Let me show you what this is. It's basically a giant pot of oatmeal.
Okay. Yeah, that really does just look like you're making oatmeal in there.
We'll let that soak for about an hour. Then we'll drain that liquid. There's a screen in the bottom of this tank that allows us to extract the liquid, leave the spent grain in there. That liquid will get moved over to the boil kettle. So at that point, the liquid's called wort. It's not beer yet. We'll add more hot water to here and wash the sugars off the outside of the grain. That's a process called sparging. We'll move all that liquid also into the boil kettle. We'll heat it up. We'll add hops. We'll let it boil for at least an hour, sometimes 2-3 hours, depending on the beer. Once we're done there, we have to cool it very rapidly, so we run it through a heat exchanger. The unfinished beer flows on one side, and then we have water or cold glycol on the other side of the plate so that the heat transfers very quickly. And we can drop from boiling temperature to 70 degrees in about 10 seconds.
Wow.
The reason we have to do that is because we have to move it into a fermenter quickly and add yeast. And the yeast don't like hot temperatures, so we need to cool it very quickly. These are our small batch fermenters right here.
And is that basically a smaller version of these behind us?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Small batch, big batch.
Much bigger batch. Yeah, yes. I think that's probably what catches most people's eyes when they walk in.
Correct.
One of those giant tanks.
Yes.
And this is just the smaller version for the more, select?
Our experimental and
okay.
Brewers Reserve stuff.
So this is how you make the beer. This is how it's actually done, which is really interesting to me because, the beer's been around for a long, long time, and it seems like the basics of it are basically the same, but the technology's just improved substantially. Correct,
yes. The fermentation process happens naturally, right? If you just leave fruit out,
right,
the wild yeast will grow on it and it will ferment.
This is how it's made, but the different flavors are what makes it unique, special. So talk to me about what you guys do that's different to create the specific beers that you guys have on tap.
Yeah, well, why don't we go out front again and we can talk about some of the beers we have on tap and compare them to the ingredients that go into them.
Very cool, let's do it.
All right.
Okay, Art, so what are we doing and who's this guy?
Oh, so we are tasting a few beers, and this is Peter Hemmingson, our head brewer.
Peter, it's good to see you again. I have met you before, obviously, but just wanted to let the people know who you are and what we're doing.
Yeah, good to see you again. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. So, bunch of different colors, bunch of different, I'm assuming, tastes. Where should I start?
Well, start with the lightest. So what we have in the glass is our base grain. So that beer is more of a showcase of our base grain plus a Belgian wheat yeast.
Okay.
So you should get delicate esters from the yeast.
Just tastes like a good light beer too. Like if I go somewhere and I just want to drink something, not worry about it, this is what I'm going to get. It's really good. I like it. Now this one looks significantly different.
Right. So next to it is flaked rice. So that made our base beer even lighter, so to showcase the fruit. So then we added fruit to it. So what you're going to taste is, we call it guava power.
Okay.
And it truly is. It is guava in a glass.
Really? Okay, see, I like this a lot because when I first drink it, it seems like it's going to be sour. It like hits you initially almost like a grapefruit type of feel, but it does not stay in your mouth that way. It's really smooth. It's really good. I like this a lot. Okay. That's really hazy.
Yes,
That's like the first thing I would think about when I saw that.
Hazy, right. So that's our Rain Out Hazy. That is our popular New England style IPA. Next to it we have some flaked wheat, which adds a lot of protein that creates that chill haze.
Can you explain what an IPA actually is? What does that mean?
Well, right, so IPA just literally stands for India Pale Ale, but also there's a broad spectrum now of IPAs. And so a New England style IPA now, it's softer. It's softer on the palate, more citrusy, more fruit forward rather than bitterness forward.
Now this one, that does not look like any of these, and it's a stout is what I would think that is.
So that's actually our popular leg day. It's a wee heavy.
Okay.
So it's the heaviest style of a Scottish ale.
Okay.
So these two base grains, darker grains, those will go into our, that's what gives it that nice ruby red color and a little bit of chocolate notes. The cool thing is that the grains are roasted at the same temperatures that we perceive as like chocolate or coffee.
Okay.
So you get a lot of those notes, but it's only from the grain.
Wow. Okay. This is really good. I was expecting this to hit much more bitter. I was expecting this to be.
That's probably the maltiest beer we have.
This is. Hold. I would expect that something like this dark and kind of intense looking is going to be like a really extreme experience of drinking, but this is incredibly drinkable.
Yep.
And this is not, I would never reach for this first. I would never go for this first, and so I would never really try it.
Right.
And except for today, and
this happens to be a special day because that is actually our barrel aged version. So that has been aged in a whiskey barrel for 2 months.
when I first saw this lineup, my thought was, I'm really gonna like this because I already basically have an idea. This is kind of what I drink, and these two I have no idea about. I expected this to be almost an unpleasant experience.
Right.
Just to be honest with you, but that is phenomenal. Wow, okay. Yeah, so I'm glad we did this because I feel like I've learned a ton. If you're coming in to Westlake Brewing, try a bunch of this because it's really interesting. And that guava one was very different. That's very unique. I've never really had anything like that before. But this might be my favorite.
Cool.
Which again, I would never have thought that would be my favorite, but that is phenomenal.
Right.
Okay, so there you go. There's a peek at Westlake, and thank you guys for letting me come out, check out the place. These guys are awesome. You're down here in Deep Ellum. What's the easiest way for people to spot you besides the giant red tower outside?
That's probably the easiest.
Drive down Commerce Street.
Malcolm X.
Look for the giant red water tower kind of looking thing out there.
It's a grain silo.
Oh, hey, there you go. That makes way more sense for what you guys are doing. Yeah, so come on out and try this one if you are...
Leg day.
Leg day. Try leg day. And also, do leg day. Don't skip leg day.
Don't skip it.
There you go.
No.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. That was fantastic. And see you guys on the next one.